The bruises were always explained away. Patricia's mother, 82, had a caregiver the family adored. Warm, attentive, always smiling, always with a reasonable answer. When a bruise appeared on her mother's arm, it was she bumped the doorway. When money seemed to go missing, it was she must have misplaced it. When her mother grew quiet and withdrawn around the caregiver, the family assumed it was just the decline of age. Everyone liked this woman. She seemed trustworthy. So the family kept explaining away the small things, one at a time, for almost a year. It was a bank teller, not the family, who finally noticed the pattern of withdrawals and raised a concern. What came to light was a slow, deliberate financial and emotional exploitation of a vulnerable woman, carried out by someone the family had trusted completely. The signs had been there the whole time. They just didn't look like what Patricia expected abuse to look like. I'm telling you Patricia's story today because elder abuse is far more common than families believe, and it is one of the most hidden crimes there is. It happens in homes and in facilities. It's committed by strangers, by paid caregivers, by trusted friends, and, painfully often, by family members themselves. The majority of cases are never reported, and the single biggest reason families miss it is exactly what happened to Patricia. They're looking for an obvious villain, when abuse usually wears a trustworthy face and hides behind reasonable explanations. Today I'm going to show you the real warning signs of elder abuse across all its forms, why it's so easily missed, even when the caregiver seems kind, and what to do if you're concerned through the right channels that actually protect your parent. Because here's the truth at the center of this video. Recognizing this is uncomfortable, and looking anyway is one of the most protective things you can do for someone who may not be able to protect themselves. Before we go further, this is a hard topic, but it's one every family with a vulnerable parent needs to understand. Share this video with the family members who help watch over your parent. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it now. Every week one publish content exactly like this, clinical, honest, and built for families navigating the care of an aging parent. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. Let me start by broadening what abuse even means, because most families picture only one kind, and that narrow picture is exactly why they miss the others. Elder abuse takes several forms, and they often overlap. There's physical abuse, hitting, rough handling, improper restraint, or misuse of medication to sedate and control. There's emotional or psychological abuse, intimidation, threats, humiliation, or isolating the person from others, which is often the most common and least visible. There's financial exploitation, stealing money, coercing changes to accounts or wills, misusing a power of attorney, or draining someone's resources over time. This is one of the most frequent forms, and the one that got Patricia's mother. And there's neglect, the failure to provide adequate food, hygiene, medical care, or safety, whether intentional or through incapacity. Understanding this range matters, because when you're only watching for bruises, you can miss the caregiver who's isolating your parent, or the relative quietly emptying their accounts, or the neglect that leaves someone unwashed and underfed. Abuse is not one thing. It's a category, and knowing all of it is what lets you actually see it. Now let me give you the warning signs, because concrete signs are what turn a vague unease into something you can act on. For physical abuse, Watch for unexplained injuries, bruises, cuts, burns, fractures, especially ones that don't match the explanation given, or a recurring pattern of accidents. Watch for a parent who flinches, seems fearful, or goes quiet around a particular person, and for unusual drowsiness that could signal medication being misused to control them. For emotional abuse, watch for a parent becoming withdrawn, anxious or fearful, or seeming tense and unusually submissive around a specific caregiver. And watch closely for isolation. A caregiver who limits your access, is always present, and won't leave you alone with your parent, or discourages visits. Isolation is both a warning sign and a tool abusers use, because a cut-off person can't tell anyone what's happening. For financial abuse, watch for unexplained withdrawals, new or unfamiliar accounts, missing money or belongings, and sudden changes to wills, powers of attorney, or beneficiaries, especially ones that benefit a caregiver or new acquaintance. Watch for a new friend or helper who's become intensely involved in your parents' finances. This was the pattern the bank teller caught that the family missed. For neglect, watch for poor hygiene, unexplained weight loss, dehydration, untreated medical problems, unsafe living conditions, missing glasses, hearing aids, or dentures, or medications not being given properly. The common thread across all of these is change and pattern. A single bruise is a bruise. A pattern of bruises with shifting explanations is a signal. Watch for the pattern and watch for the change from how your parent used to be. If you're finding this valuable, and I hope you are, take 1 second right now and hit the like button. It genuinely helps this content reach other families who may be explaining away signs exactly as Patricia's family did. Like and keep watching. Now the hardest part of this topic, the part that's right there in the title, because it's the reason so much abuse goes unseen. Abuse rarely comes from an obvious villain. The person abusing or exploiting an older adult is very often charming, competent, and well-liked. They have to be. That likability is what earns the trust and access that makes the abuse possible. So families fall into a trap. She's so kind, she'd never do that. He's been with Dad for years. That trust, however reasonable it feels, becomes the blind spot. Patricia's family didn't miss the signs because they were careless. They missed them because they liked the woman, and liking someone makes us explain away what doesn't fit. It's even harder when the suspected abuser is a family member, an adult child, a sibling, a spouse. Family abuse is extremely common and the most agonizing to confront because it forces a family to see something terrible about one of their own. But your loyalty has to be to the vulnerable person, not to the comfort of not knowing. And understand why victims themselves stay silent. They're often ashamed, afraid of retaliation, or dependent on the abuser, and terrified of being left with no one. If the abuser is family, they may fear getting their own child in trouble. And cognitive impairment may prevent them from understanding or communicating what's happening at all. This is why the responsibility so often falls on other family members to notice, because the victim frequently cannot or will not speak. So let me say this clearly. Taking a concern seriously is not betraying a good caregiver. If you're wrong, a careful inquiry does no lasting harm. If you're right, your attention may be the only thing standing between your parent and ongoing harm. When something feels off, the loving thing is to look. not to look away, because looking is uncomfortable. Now, what to do if you're concerned, and I want to be careful here, because how you respond matters enormously for your parent's safety. First, if your parent is in immediate danger, treat it as the emergency it is and contact emergency services right away. If it's not an immediate emergency but you have real concerns, here is the crucial guidance. Do not try to investigate or confront the suspected abuser on your own. Confronting them directly can escalate the situation and put your parent at greater risk, especially if that person controls your parent's daily care and access, and it can cause a financial abuser to cover their tracks. This is not a situation to handle alone or emotionally in the moment. Instead, work through the proper channels that exist precisely for this. Most regions have an Adult Protective Services Agency, or its equivalent, whose job is to investigate suspected elder abuse safely and professionally. There are elder abuse helplines that can guide your next steps. Your parent's doctor can document injuries and concerns. For financial abuse, the bank and law enforcement have roles. And if your parent is in a care facility, there are usually oversight bodies, often called long-term care ombudsman programs, dedicated to investigating concerns. Document what you observe, dates, specific signs, what was said, photos of injuries where appropriate, because a factual record helps the professionals who investigate. Try gently to spend time alone with your parent so they have a safe space to speak if they're able, and lean on the professionals. This is their expertise, and you don't have to carry it alone. The specific agencies vary by country and region, so look up the right elder abuse reporting resource for where your parent lives, so you know who to call before you ever need to. This is the moment where I want to ask you something directly. If this video has helped you understand what abuse really looks like, or made you rethink a situation you'd been explaining away, share it with the family members who help watch over your parent. The more eyes that know what to look for, the harder it is for abuse to hide. Share it, and if this is a topic you've lived through, your experience in the comments may help another family recognize it sooner. Subscribe if you haven't yet. A brief note on prevention, because there's real power in it. Abuse thrives in isolation, so the single best protection is a parent who has regular, unpredictable visits and multiple people actively in their life. Rotate who visits and when, so no one caregiver ever fully controls access. Keep oversight of finances through regular review by a trusted family member. Vet caregivers and facilities carefully before choosing them. And build a relationship where your parent feels safe telling you if something is wrong and knows they'll be believed and protected, not blamed. That safety is one of the most powerful protections there is. Here is what your family can do. Today, learn what abuse actually includes: physical, emotional, financial, and neglect. And honestly consider whether any pattern you've been explaining away deserves a closer, calmer look. Look up the Elder Abuse Reporting resource for your parents' area now, so you have it before you need it. This week, increase your presence, spend time alone with your parent, review finances for anything unusual, and pay attention to changes in mood and behavior, not just physical signs. If you have real concerns, do not confront the suspected person alone. Contact the appropriate authorities, Adult Protective Services and Elder Abuse Helpline, your parent's doctor, or facility oversight, and let the professionals assess it safely. Document what you observe. Call emergency services if there is immediate danger. Ongoing. Prevent through involvement, regular, varied visits, financial oversight, careful vetting, and a relationship where your parent knows they'll be heard and protected. Here's what I want you to carry with you from today. Patricia's family got their mother to safety, recovered some of what had been taken, and never quite forgave themselves for the year they spent explaining things away. But Patricia said something afterward worth holding on to. The hardest part wasn't the abuse itself. It was accepting that someone so kind, so trusted, so easy to like, could be doing it, and realizing that their trust had been the very thing that let it continue. That's the lesson I most want you to take. Abuse doesn't announce itself with an obvious villain. It hides behind warmth, behind reasonable explanations, behind the people we'd least suspect. Which means protecting a vulnerable parent requires something uncomfortable, the willingness to notice, to take a quiet unease seriously, and to look even when looking feels disloyal. You are not being paranoid or unkind by paying attention. You are being the safeguard a vulnerable person needs, and often cannot be for themselves. If something feels wrong, trust that feeling enough to look and to reach out to the people whose job it is to help. It may be the most important thing you ever do for someone who is counting on you, even if they can't say so. If this video gave you something real, something that changed how you see a situation, or that you'll share with someone who needs it, please take a moment to like it. Share it with the people who help watch over your parent, because shared vigilance is protection. And leave a comment below telling me what you're navigating, what's helped your family, or what you wish you'd known sooner. I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please subscribe. This is where I publish honest, clinical, practical guidance for families trying to do right by the people they love every single week. Thank you for being here and for caring enough to watch all the way to the end. That attention is exactly what makes the difference. I'll see you soon.